gotta tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
You need this. Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Mighty remarkable, Big Daddy. Remarkable?
Remarkable.
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking marketing lessons from Steph Curry, the babyface assassin himself.
Every time Stephen Curry touches the ball, the crowd gets loud. He gives him one more show. It won't count, but it's Curry.
With the help of our special guest, Theta Ray CMO, Brian Kilman. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you on the show. We're going to chat about marketing at Theta Ray, and we're going to chat our guy, Wardell Stephen Curry II. Brian, why the heck did you choose Steph to talk about today?
Well, he's a North Carolina native. I am a graduate of UNC Chapel Hill. He's really he's revolutionized basketball. When you think about all the greats, he probably more than anyone else has changed basketball for more than anyone else that we can imagine in our lifetime. When you think about the greats, Jordan, you think about Bird, you think about Magic, they've all had massive impacts on the game. But when a 6'3" kid who just shoots the lights out from half court changes the way that kids play basketball today, you now have, little kids chucking up 30-foot 3-pointers in elementary school. Maybe not a good thing in elementary school, but when they think that they can do something that's achievable, a lot of kids who play basketball, they look at Jordan, they look at LeBron, and they say, that's great, I can't dunk. But Steph gave an image, a likeness, that's something that they could try and repeat. But for me, as a marketer, the thing that I always look at Steph was he had all the opportunities in the world to join a big brand. Everyone who's in basketball, everyone who's in football is a Nike client, is an Adidas client, and he joined an underdog. And as a chief marketing officer for two scale ups now, we're all underdogs as scale ups. And joining something like Under Armour and taking a risk and paying the brand for those who may not be as strong or as tall or as fast, and creating an empire out of that was something that was really inspirational for me as a marketer to sit and watch. Yeah, I love his game. Yeah, I love watching basketball in general, but what he's done off the court and what he's done with building 30 Inc., which is his own company, is something that, I find to be as inspirational as anything that any of the other great athletes have done.
He's probably my favorite athlete of all time. I'm a huge Warriors fan. I grew up in Oakland, watched the horrific Golden State Warriors for all of my childhood, of which the best, their slogan was, "It's a good time out." That's how bad the Warriors were, was because they're like, we got to get families to come here because this is terrible. So we just have to say it's a good time out. And,
you had run TNC though. You had a run though for a little while.
for like 2 years, and then pretty much the worst. Bill Simmons wrote this great piece about the Warriors that basically was like 40 years of losing. And then like right after that, we got Steph Curry and everything changed. But so
he's the most likable athlete on earth. And he's polarizing in and of the fact that no one dislikes him. He's one of the few. Everyone, there's always an athlete that has a contingency that hates him. He's a genuine good dude. It's kind of amazing to watch.
Yeah. He's a great family man. His family is awesome. His wife is awesome. He lives around the corner from me, just in a much larger house and in a much higher location on the hill. Not like us people down in the flats. I say that like that's in Walnut Creek, let's be real. But it's just, he's the man. And I'm super excited to dig into it. And I think from a marketing perspective, he's amazing in so many ways. And I think he's also transformed a lot of marketing people's careers, which we'll also get into here in a little bit.
Agreed.
But first, tell us what it means to be the CMO of Theta Ray.
Well, be the CMO usually means that you're the guy who gets your brains beaten in every day. But no, CMO of Theta Ray. So I joined Theta Ray in February of this year. Theta Ray is an AI-powered financial crime compliance platform. So what does that mean? Banks, fintechs, they have thousands, tens of thousands, millions of transactions that run through their network every day. And our AI-powered platform helps identify potential money laundering that flows through their network. It's historically a market that's been driven by legacy systems, and so this has been a great market for AI to come and really revolutionize how banks are able to better identify potentially risky transactions, which is great, not from the perspective of just, reducing risk, but when you think about fintechs today, it allows them to look at areas of the market which have historically been seen as subpar. So for me, we're in the vein. As I said earlier, this is my second scale up. And for me, it's really trying to drive a brand for a company that's changing the model for how banks are looking to do business and fighting against very large incumbent competitors. So it's a lot of brand. It's a lot of working with analysts to generate external market validation was the word I was looking for, but a lot of demand gen. And so it's really trying to find ways to elevate the company's name and to get face to face with very hard personas in companies to go and speak with, people who are looking at financial crime compliance or chief risk officers, chief compliance officers. They're not the easiest people to go and market to these days.
Yeah, indeed. Such a cool company, and we'll dig into it later. Meredith, who the heck is Steph Curry?
So it feels a little silly to introduce Steph Curry because I feel like everyone knows him, which we'll talk a little bit about. He's like one of the most popular players out there. But they don't know all the information we're going to share. That's for sure. That's true. And I've got some good quotes and stats too. So he's a pro basketball player for the Golden State Warriors and a 4-time NBA champ. One of the things that we've already alluded to that makes him special and stand out is his size, which is funny because now he's like 6'3" and all of that. But when he was growing up, he was like
he's buffer now.
Yeah,
he's a lot buffer now. He's
a little bit more
physical,
very
now.
Lean.
Twig when he came into the league.
Yeah, totally.
Just fun fact: I have one of the shirts that says "Babyface Assassin" from when he first came into the league, and they used to sell them in East Oakland. You can just go buy shirts from people that just make sure to sell them on the street. And I have this screen printed shirt that says "Babyface Assassin" from 2014 or 2013.
That's fabulous.
That's cool. That's probably worth money now,
Yeah, I know. I hope it's somewhere. And so, because the screen printed shirts are awesome, you wear them once, but then it's they get super hot because it's all, you know what I mean? It's all plastic.
Yep.
Yeah. Sweating
up.
When
they go through the dryer, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's they all cry. Oh no, you don't wash that. I mean, this thing has the beer stains from Oracle Arena and all that stuff. Anyway,
some nice crust.
yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. So the one thing that really stands out about him is his size, right? So growing up, he talks about always being the smallest kid on the team. And he said at least through his senior year of high school, he was 5'6", I think is what he said. And that actually made him think differently about things when he's playing basketball. He says, you just see things differently on the floor. And try to find out how you're going to be successful and how you're going to impact the game as a smaller guy. Not being able to just physically dominate somebody, you got to be smarter. You got to have a better IQ. You got to be a little more crafty on the floor. It actually helps my game a lot. So I think it's a great example of making something which could be considered your shortcoming, your strength. And now that he's fully grown, aside from being 6'3", which I was what is the average height of an NBA player? And it's 6'7", which seems so tall. But point guards, which is what Steph Curry is, the average height is 6'2", so he's actually an inch taller. But so now he's one of the most recognizable and successful NBA players of all time. And I think a lot of that doesn't come down to just his athletic ability, but also how engaged he is with his fans. He says it's one thing that he pays a lot of attention to. He says, I'm very active on social media and see the huge impact it has on engaging with fans and being able to have a voice. He also co-founded a company called Slice. It's an app designed to help athletes improve fan engagement. And it sort of sifts out relevant questions and topics so he can speak to them instead of having to field all sorts of DMs and things like that. And he also sort of differentiated like all of his like endeavors. So he has a brand conglomerate, Brian, that you mentioned, 30 Inc., and it covers his media company, Unanimous Media, and they produce TV, film, books, and digital content. And he also has like a bourbon brand named Gentleman's Cut. Like he's got all sorts of things going on. And his is the second most sold jersey in the league. In 2022, he was the most viewed player across NBA social platforms with over 450 million views. And he has over like 75 million followers across his social accounts. Like he's very active across social media and super, super recognizable. But yeah, I think his engagement with fans is like one of the things that also makes him stand out, aside from being a humble family guy and just being seemingly like very friendly and a good person. Like, I don't think I've ever heard anything bad about him.
He's highly philanthropic too. A lot of his endeavors, a lot of the money that he generates goes towards philanthropic entities. For him, it's, I think one of the models of 30 Inc. is not just about profit, but how much he can give back to the communities. He's been a big giver to his communities and the entities that he finds important to him.
Well, I think he's just like super real. I think that's part of it, is like, not to point any fingers at any other like NBA players, like LeBron James, for example, who
I think he pointed a finger. I'm not sure.
Oh, did I? Who just has had various situations over the years where he comes off as a bit holier than thou and a bit, no shots at LeBron too hard, but you got to jab him a little bit. It's like he wore like a wrap to his hand after he lost in the finals, and he said that he like hurt his hand, and then the next day like his hand was fine. But like Steph Curry never does that. He never complains about the refs, even though they like never call fouls. He never complains about like the way he's defended, even though like every game his like arms are literally like covered in blood because people like scratch him and clawed him. He's like the pro's pro, and it's crazy because to be the best person, arguably in the league, if not, the second best person in the league for like 10 straight years and still be underrated is like crazy. And he just does it with like style and grace and realness. And he's never fake. He's never like overly braggadocious. He's humble, but he's not like so humble. Like he understands what he is and who he is. And like all of that is like, do you know how hard it is to wake up every day and to choose to like walk that path? Like that's so hard.
And loyal, which in today's professional sports is unheard of, where you have a person who spent his entire career in one city. It's unheard of. I mean, you go to LeBron. I mean, LeBron champion chases. I mean, Kevin Durant, you name it. People who the second they get disgruntled, they want out of the city. Steph has been through horrible transformations in Golden State and has managed to somehow, still cobble together teams and drag them into the playoffs of his own free will, and is unwilling to leave that city, which is another, it goes to his character.
And I think, and like to each their own, right? Like if that's like, if we all change jobs, we all do whatever, like that's totally fine. And loyalty is not like the only thing in the world, but I think it speaks to like the way he views this of like, I want to do it my way. And like everything is always his way. Like it seems like nobody is able to like penetrate his like outer shell of like ever influencing the way he acts or behaves on or off the court. And it's like, I think that early in his career, he was having the great quote is that I think it was Don Nelson, one of his early coaches, told him that he should have more assists than shots, I think was the quote. And which is hilarious for the best shooter in NBA history, who broke every single like 3-point record by a mile. And it's just hilarious that his coach, who was a super famous coach, was like, yeah, you shouldn't even shoot the ball, right?
Well, so be careful. Like I said, I went to North Carolina, and the joke is always who's the only person who's kept Michael Jordan under 20 points a game? Dean Smith.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but I think that's the sort of thing where it's like he internalized those things, and like the history of him is like internalizing things and then in the politest way possible, shoving it in everybody's face. And like, that's why his companies are all named the things that they're named. It's like, it's unanimous media because he's the first ever unanimous MVP. It's his golf tournament is called the Underrated Golf Tour. Like, it's like all these things that he never forgets, like where he came from and like what he was able to achieve. And he lets you know in his way. And it's like, again, I'm like, he's like my favorite player ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the importance of the three-point shot, I mean, the three-point shot transformed. Clearly, when the introduction of the three-point shot was transformed when it came into the league, but he made it where it was a strategic weapon. And, you start to think about the greats before him, Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, Reggie Miller's still one of my favorites of all time, but Steph has taken that three-point line and made it something that you have to guard him the second you get over the half-point line. It's changed the way the game has been played. It's introduced players post Steph, guys like Trae Young. There's 1,000 guys now who can shoot the lights out from 40 feet away from the basket. But the movement of the game to beyond the three-point line has transformed the way that the league has started to look at how to create teams. It's changed the center role within the league several times over, and it's just something that we haven't seen before. And I think it's something that won't be changed from now on. When you look at the average scores from just a couple of years ago to where they are today, that lays at the feet of Steph Curry, because he changed the way that game has gotten played. And now there's no team that survives in the NBA without having two lights out shooters, any of which pale in compared to what Steph can throw up in a game.
I got a couple stats for you that are just absurd stats. 11 straight seasons with 5+ 3-pointers made per game. No other player has more than 3. He is the only player in NBA history to average 30 points a game while shooting 50% field goals, 40% for 3 and 90% free throws. So again, only player ever. One of the seasons, his best season, he didn't play in 24th quarters. So they were beating the other team so badly that he didn't even have to play in the fourth quarter. And he
had to be
still
the KD championship season would be my guess.
I think it was, I'd have to check. I think it was 2015. But again, that's insane. So he has over 4,000 3-pointers made total. He has over 600 more than the person who is in second place, which is Ray Allen, which is crazy. And games with 10+ threes, he's done it 26 times. And the next closest player is Klay Thompson, who's done it 7. So he's so much better at hitting threes, which is the most important thing you can do in basketball. And all of that comes from someone who's a skinny kid that came into the league that nobody knew if he could make it or not. And so there's a bunch of marketing takeaways, but it's mastering something that nobody had really ever mastered. If you look at the level between him and Ray Allen, who's the second best 3-point shooter ever, and Ray Allen to the 75th person, right? There's not that big of a difference. Whereas him to Ray Allen is massive. And so, yeah, it's just completely, rewriting the game. And I think that, and then also the other thing too, that I think is really worth bringing up is this idea of gravity. And so there's this basketball term called gravity that sort of was kind of made up because of Steph, which is Steph is so good and attracts so many players from the other team. And this is true has always been true. But with him, it's really different because he has the ball so far away from the basket. So if you have to send 2 players to him when he's 30 feet away from the basket, then there's way more space for everybody else. So he gets these, so an assist as you pass the ball, they shoot, they make it. A gravity or a hockey assist, because this is how they do it in hockey, is if you pass it to a person, they pass it to someone and they score. Well, that's not a common thing that's tracked in basketball. And so, but Steph Curry's hockey assists are off the charts, because as soon as you make the second pass, that, your team was going 4 people on 3 people, and it's a lot easier to score. So I think that this is this idea of gravity, which I want to get into from a marketing perspective, but it's he sort of invented a statistic or made it much more meaningful than ever before, because you're able to, do stuff that, historically, like, no, you never needed to guard someone ever in NBA history from 30 feet. Like, you never needed to do that. And with Steph, it's like, he's going to make 40% of them. You have to.
Exactly. And I think that the most interesting thing about it, and you can put all the superlatives on him that you want, he made the game relatable and accessible to people who thought they couldn't play the game prior. Most people can't dunk. I can't get close to a basket, but I can shoot. And he gave kids hope, that I can play basketball. I could do things that I didn't think I could do, or I was told I couldn't do because I'm short, I'm not as strong, or whatever. And you see kids now. I coach my son's basketball team. They put up 3-pointers, and they're hitting a lot of them these days. And that was something that in elementary school, when my son was when he was 10 years old, kids couldn't hit a 3-pointer. They couldn't reach the backboard with 3-pointer of a basket. But he's made the game relatable to kids who thought that basketball was something that they couldn't or shouldn't play. And as a marketer, that's the holy grail.
Yeah, and then the final piece is, I think, just like his portfolio of brands, Under 30 Inc. is super impressive. Also, the Eat, Learn, Play Foundation. He does a lot of stuff with his wife, who, is like loved cooking and is now like basically a celebrity chef. He's made TV shows. He does this show, Holy Moly. He did another TV show recently that's like a fiction, like a scripted series. He's in media. He's obviously in social media. And so he has, has tech investments, and he's really just used his fame and and his reach and the engagement and all that stuff to really spread this. And he really lets people in. I feel like he does a great job of that. Like, a lot of it, or some of it is like more scripted or more whatever, but like, who his kids are, who his wife is, his family is, his brother plays in the NBA, his brother-in-law used to play on the same team with him. Like, there's just all this stuff that I think lets you into like feeling like the Currys and Steph.
Everyone knew Steph from his dad.
Yeah, and his dad is an NBA player, and Clay's dad was an NBA player. And like, it's just all of this stuff that, like, I think, and we sort of been with him highs and lows. He had like a ton of injuries early in his career. And so I just feel like we've all really had this parasocial relationship with Steph Curry and his family. Like, we've watched his kids literally grow up. The famous, like, of his daughter, like, underneath the stage when they were like winning their first championship, and she's like, talking into the microphone and all this cute stuff. So Cannon's all grown up now. It's like, it's crazy. And like it's that parasocial piece that I think is really interesting with him too. And then the other thing is the Under Armour deal. And so the famous story of this Under Armour deal is that he goes into the meeting, and it's him and his dad, and he goes into the meeting with Nike. And I forget the exact thing that happened, but basically they got the slide wrong. They were pitching Steph Nike, and they got one of the slides wrong. And his dad was like, "Yo, screw this." And then they got the pitch from Under Armour, and he became an Under Armour athlete. And it's like the biggest thing that Under Armour ever did.
Corrected the brand completely.
Yeah, completely. Like, nobody wore an Under Armour basketball shoe before Steph Curry. And so it's like, that stuff is like life-changing. And then just one other thing, while I'm already on a roll, is, he completely changed the Warriors franchise, which is now, I don't know, it's like well over $5 billion in value.
Yeah.
I don't know what they bought it for, but completely changed the Warriors franchise. Obviously, all the titles and all that stuff, but also all the sponsors. So like, I interviewed former CMO at Kaiser Permanente, and so they locked in this sponsorship. So Oracle Arena, Oracle with Oracle Arena, Kaiser, and then a few other sponsors had locked in deals with the Warriors. And so when the Warriors got huge in 2014 and then won the title in 2015 and had the crazy season in 2016, they had crazy cheap rates for all of those things. So like, all the marketers for anyone who is involved in all that stuff got like ridiculously high ROI, because they were able to like lock in these low rates. And Steph Curry saved everybody. Like, he changed so many people's career just by the gravity of his ascent, which is crazy.
It's really unbelievable. And then when they got all the money, when they opened up the new arena, and to be in before the arena got opened as a sponsor, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's super crazy. And it's all because of Steph. Like, it's all like, none of it happens without him, you know?
Yep.
The Warriors, the championships, all the businesses, all that stuff, like all the, you know, kids that he's impacted. So
I mean, he's their best player, but he is their brand at the end of the day. And that gets back to, you know, it's the loyalty piece of it as well, because had he left and gone somewhere else, the Warriors could still very well be good. They would be a different organization today.
I think the just final piece for just him as a person is just his physical conditioning. So I swear we're going to get to marketing. He is the best conditioned person in the league. He, after games, will go and like work out, like hit the bike so that he can be so conditioned. And part of the thing that has made him a great player is he's so good on the ball, but he's also so good off the ball, running around screens. Like, this guy's 35 and sprinting around the basketball court in the fourth quarter, 80 games into the season with guys, you know, 10 plus years younger than him, can't even chase him around the court. And it's like, and he's not super athletic. Obviously he's very athletic, but he's not like a freak athlete. He just like busts his ass every single day. And which also makes him very likable, but also like the basics of basketball, the fundamentals of basketball, he practices all the time. And he's made a spectacle of it all. People go and show up early to watch his warm-ups, right? Yep. I've done that many times. Like, it's so cool. And so I think that like he's able to make the mundane spectacular. And he still has the wherewithal to show up every day consistently and say, yeah, this was a brutal, you know, back-to-back, whatever, on a Tuesday night in Orlando. And I'm still going to hit the bike afterwards to make sure that I'm conditioned for when it's playoff season. And like, just that level of like maniacal commitment to being great is like, he's got to be the most consistent player, you know, in any sport ever. It's like Jerry Rice, you know, level of just consistency.
Absolutely.
Marketing takeaways, Brian, what do you got for us?
For me, like I said, I think from the marketing takeaways for me have always been his role as an underdog. From a brand perspective and from a marketing perspective, it's endearing to be able to play the role of underdog as well as he does. And I think that's why people resonate with him as well as they do. I think that's why people want to interact with him as much as they do. He came into the league, as you said, you know, 2 bad ankles, 6 foot, whatever he was when he joined the league. But it's the underdog mentality, and it's the accessibility to a game that I always take away as something that whenever I'm looking at marketing, it doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter you know who you're talking to. It's how do you make everything that you do more accessible to those that you're trying to sell. And I think that he's the case study for accessibility around a brand and around a persona that is truly awe-inspiring for me as a marketer.
I totally agree. I think my biggest takeaway from Steph Curry as a marketer is that you have to show up every day and be consistent and just worry about what's in front of you and the things that you can control. And I feel like that Steph, he does not worry about everything else. Like, he worries about himself. He worries about his conditioning. He worries about, you know, making his body ready. He doesn't let sort of like outside noise get in. He's extremely resilient.
He controls what he can control. Everything else is noise.
That's right. And it's like, and I think, you know, you've seen him get frustrated a handful of times over the course of the years, but like, it's pretty rare. He doesn't let the highs get too high or the lows get too lows. And he just shows up and does the work. And he does the right work. He does the work that like has the highest yield. And that's always been him, right? I'm going to shoot the shots that nobody else can shoot. I'm going to shoot the shots that are the highest or that score the most points. I'm going to, you know, figure out a way to work my body to make, you know, my shortcomings less obvious. Oh, I need to gain weight, then I'm going to gain weight. I need to gain lateral movement. So I need to work on my lateral movement. And so, he's just always trying to be consistent. And I feel like when you have that foundation of like doing all the little things correctly, it allows for you to just outlast all of your competitors if you can do those things.
Great. The longevity is enviable.
And then I think the converse of that is that he is like the moonshot, right? It's like he is the underdog. He is the thing that just looks like the scrawny, pipsqueak that can't do anything. And I think that like it's worth looking at opportunities, in your marketing portfolio, like they're a portfolio. And like the Steph Currys of the world, like basically never come about. But whoever the next Steph Curry is not going to look or act or sound or be like Steph Curry. Like they're not going to.
He's 7'7" and he plays in San Antonio.
Yeah, right. That's right.
That's another top.
Well, and I think that's one of the things, right? It's like, well, that's the obvious thing, right? Is like, yeah, the obvious thing is if the tallest person, like one of the tallest people who can, ever played in the NBA with like the tallest wingspan, who's like the freak athlete, like everyone knew Wembanyama is going to be great. Nobody knew that Steph Curry is going to be great. And that's why you went, 8th or 7th, I forget. And I think it was Minnesota took 2 point guards in front of him. Yeah. But I think that like looking at ways to invest in the ways that can yield like massive returns, it's like if you do everything else consistently and put the right work in and then make your crazy investments, then those things can like pay off massively. And I feel like that's, what happened with Steph.
Completely agreed. He took the obvious shots that were going to allow him the greatest amount of success for him. And I think that's a lot of people get caught up in the noise. And I think as people, as companies, as marketers, the noise is very easy to get distracted by. And for him, he's been very true to himself. And like I said, I think that it's helped him with his brand because what you said earlier, he's always been who he was, and it's never really changed.
Yeah, I think another takeaway for me is just like we've all worked with people on our teams that are like a little bit of an enigma or a headache even. And he was a headache for Don Nelson. Like he might not think it because he's like, oh, he's this quiet, humble, hardworking person. But like you watch all the clips of Steve Kerr put his hands on his head when Steph takes a 35-footer. Like Steve did not want those shots. And over time, he's like, oh, it's Steph Curry. He can do whatever he wants. But didn't start that way.
Yeah. At some point, you're undeniable.
Right. And I think that like there's a lot of people that, have worked with us in the past, or like a brand, works with an influencer or we try a different type of campaign. And like, you have to try something and like give it a real shot. It's like, you have to. And it's like, if the skinny kid can hit 35-footers, like maybe instead of saying, okay, well, that works, maybe you should say, okay, well, let's see if you can do it again.
I mean, hell, if we're going into marketing at this point, I think we're at that point where if you think about the number of companies that are sprouting up every day, and AI has been the unfortunate great equalizer in all industries because now companies are sprouting up every 5 minutes with a business plan and somehow landing $10 million in VC. But what it's creating is cluttered inboxes, 1,000 webinar invites every week. I think the marketing engine is broken, and you can't. What used to work no longer works. And if you're trying to use traditional methods, good luck. You're stuck in the noise as we speak about. And I always tell my team, forget traditional waterfalls, forget everything that was once traditional in marketing, especially in B2B. You have one shot at getting a persona to interact with your brand. And in that one shot, there's no such thing as 8 touches to get someone to mature. You have to get a meeting with that person. And because, to your point, it's just everything is changing. And I think that breaking convention is something that has to be considered when looking at marketing today.
Yeah, and I think basketball is a zero-sum game. There's a fixed number of teams. There's only one champion. There's 48 minutes. Like, it's all fixed. So you have to move within the variables of those like confines. And like, again, nobody in the history of basketball thought, you know what? 3-pointers are way more valuable. We should shoot more of those, right? Like the most simple thing of like shots, divided by points that you get. It's like point per shot.
We're going to play without a center for the most part because Draymond's not a center, but we're going to stick guys who are just going to shoot the lights out around him, and he's going to facilitate as a relatively small big. And good luck. I mean, that broke the NBA.
Yeah, and the same way that, shout out to another Oakland sports team, that Al Davis did with the Raiders back in the day, where he was like, I want really, really, really fast guys, because if they're moving, and I want to throw the ball down the field, because if you stretch the field really vertically, there's now all of a sudden tons of space in the middle of the field that you can then attack. And so, like, again, it's like it's these are all fixed games. Marketing is not, right?
Al Davis also forgot that they also had to catch the ball too. They were really fast, but not as much catch.
That was after the championships, all right? He was older. But I think that it's like in marketing, like, it's not a fixed pie. But what we do is we sort of make a fixed pie, and we say, like, this is you have to have event marketing, and you have to have Google ads, and you have to have this, and you have to have this. And so we sort of create this thing, and you're like, what if you don't want to do that? What if there's like what if you just want to do one of those? Or what if you're going to do what Liquid Death did and just like make the most ridiculous stuff possible and like just focus exclusively on that and become better at it than anyone else. It's like, so there's a lot of ways to do it. And I think that being absolutely the best ever at one thing is a lot better than being like, a 6 out of 10 everywhere else.
Agree. You said it right there. And I think that's the thing that, I always try to remind my team. We don't have to do everything well if we're doing one thing that's driving to a meeting. That's all you need. Yeah. You need that one call, that one email, that one LinkedIn ad or whatever. That's getting the person to say, I want to take a demo. Because if I can do that, then I've got him hooked. If I'm sitting here blasting with white papers and 1,000 emails that he doesn't care about, what have I done other than waste money, time, and resource? And so it's for me, it's always do one thing really, really well. Forget about the marketing machine. You need that one thing, and then build the next thing. Don't worry about omni-channel marketing, and don't worry about 7 touches and all this other stuff, because that all got thrown out the window 4 or 5 years ago, and people don't buy the way that textbooks tell you that they buy anymore. And so it's, how can I be the best at this one thing that will drive the most amount of eyeballs who want to meet with me? Because everything else is a joke, because they're not going to resonate with my brand and they're not going to interact with my brand. But if I can get them the one time to say, I want to meet, I won.
Yeah, and I think marketing is about gravity, right? It's like, just like Steph Curry, bringing the defenders out to him so that other people have it easier. If you're really, really good at one thing, that gravity helps everything else, right? It's like, if your brand is really, really strong, if your content is really, really strong, your paid is like really, really strong, then all of the other stuff gets a little bit easier because you have the gravity of the one great thing. If everything is just a little bit okay, it's like there's no like primary thrust that's going to create gravity for the other channels.
I tell my team all the time, a rising tide raises all ships. We got to do one thing well. There's other things we need to do, but if we don't have that one thing that's really humming, we're just going to drown. And and so we're, as a small team with small budgets, you don't have the luxury of doing everything mediocre. You have to have your one thing, and then figure out what your next thing is, and make sure that your message is not product oriented anymore, because product is dead in this economy. You have to sell business value. What's the challenge that they're struggling with, and what can you do to help them resolve that challenge? And if you can do those things, they're going to want to talk to you.
And what's that thing that you have your teams focus on right now? What's working for your audience?
I feel like it depends on the week, unfortunately.
I know, right?
Every week is always, it would change every week. I would say the one thing that has worked really well, and I think because Theta Ray has such a very specific target audience, we were really targeting one vertical market, which has two different versions of it, fintechs and banks. But we're dealing with very high level personas within a single vertical market. For us, the great ability to reach out directly within our ICP has been LinkedIn, because I know I'm not going to get a lot of exhaust. If I spend a ton of money on Google, I may get a pile of people that fall outside of my personas. I may get a bunch of banks or fintechs that fall well outside of my TAM. LinkedIn, to be able to go and reach out to that head of risk, head of compliance, SVP, what have you. Our return on that has been significant. I would say I'm trying to mitigate that a little bit because cost per lead is really expensive in LinkedIn. So I'm trying to find other ways to get that through other vehicles. But LinkedIn has been really good just because of the ability to target as well as we can.
How does content and brand fit into your marketing strategy?
Brand is difficult content is wildly important. Let me take them one at a time. Content is always important. Content will always be king. And so making sure that you have the appropriate amount of gated and ungated content is really, really important, especially for people who are for a lesser known brand. As I said before, the industry I'm in is kind of in this transformation of your old legacy providers and the AI upstarts that are coming in now. So trying to go and spend on brand is really difficult because I can't compete with the really large platform providers. I'll never outspend them. And so it's strategically finding ways to leverage the brand. One of the things that we're doing is we're doing a carve out within our industry to try and differentiate ourselves from the legacy providers. And that has been an easier way for me to develop a brand that is ideologically different in terms of our approach to market, but trying to build a brand without having a 3 to 5 year approach to it is really, really hard for a company of our size. So what I feel, when you're in that sub $100 million ARR space, you have to have an eye to brand, but the way that I've always found it easier is going to try and build a category that identifies you as something different than the bigger logos in your space.
Any other thoughts here on either marketing lessons from Steph Curry or just marketing lessons from Theta Ray for how CMOs and marketing leaders can adjust in today's sort of crazy AI fueled world?
Yeah, I'll take the latter. I think I think that in today's market, I think that successful marketers are going to throw out the book on convention. I've never seen such a highly, and this is in all industries today, such a highly competitive environment today. I just don't think that marketing has the reach that it had historically, and you really need to short circuit the number of touches, which is totally contradicting what it always was. It was always build relationships, have as many touch points as you can with your target personas. That's BS these days, because if someone else is getting the meeting, you don't exist anymore. So what I always tell my team, and probably to the detriment of others on my team, because I'm always saying, cut out touch points. And that may mean that I want to book the meeting before it ever goes to a BDR. My BDR team may hate me for saying that, but if I can get the meeting, if I can get them to sign up via a Calendly link through, when they interact with me, guess what? I don't need to have a touch point where a BDR calls and says, "Hey, can I set up a meeting with you?"
Oh yeah, 100%.
It short circuits it. But like I said, but companies have built out entire organizations because of what they think the marketing flow should look like today.
For sure.
That doesn't work anymore. And unless you're thinking about speed, cutting out the number of touch points and getting to that face-to-face interaction as fast as humanly possible, you're never going to get business anymore. And conversion rates are highest when you can get face-to-face with anyone. And so whatever means necessary to get to that face-to-face meeting with the fewest number of touch points, they win. And that I think is something that big brands, small brands have to start to think about how do I reduce the number of touches and how do I increase my ROI by looking at, to your point, what works best and getting rid of the rest.
Brian, wonderful having you on the show today. So cool. Love chatting Stephen Curry and so cool what y'all are doing at Theta Ray. Very important work. And I'm glad that you all are doing it because fraud is real annoying and real bad for society. For our listeners, go check out Theta Ray. Any final thoughts? Anything to plug?
No, thetaray.com. If anyone wants to ever reach out to me, they can find me on LinkedIn. And I look forward to getting to speak with you guys again. This has been great.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Take care.
Appreciate it.
Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, and our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.